I'm here with Tim Ruswick, and he is the founder of the game development community, Game Dev Underground, a very successful growing community, a great presence on YouTube. He also released 12 titles last year, and I'd love to talk to him about that too. He's helped hundreds of thousands of people with his content, and he could probably talk on any number of development topics today, but I'd really like to drill down into one specific area that he is a master of, and that's marketing. Before we dive in, could you tell us a little bit about your platform, about Game Dev Underground and what you're doing with it?
So Game Dev Underground is really like a connection platform for game developers. And my biggest issue when I got into game development was actually not knowing anybody else that did it. And I wanted to create something that could not only connect people, but also, like you mentioned, marketing is one of the biggest problems that game developers have. So I wanted to create a place where we could talk about that, but also like a tool set and a series of different things that could really help with that. And I've launched a series of different little tool sets in there that kind of help with that. I have a program called Game Dev Underground Elite, which has, databases of all sorts of press and contacts, and it's really marketing focused. And I really want to promote the idea too that marketing is not something the sleazy salesman at the car sales dealership does. It's not trying to make people buy something they don't want. It's the art of telling somebody about your thing that they already want. They just don't know they want, and there's so many different nuances and details in stuff that people miss over. And there's so many great games that just go undiscovered. And I want to kind of change that.
Sounds like that's an incredible resource for indie developers. How's it coming along? What sort of traction are you getting?
It's insane, actually. So I started Game Dev Underground in 2013, and we've had more growth in probably the last 3 months than we've had in the last 3 years. And I've started a series of different companies. I've messed around with startups. I've done stuff, and it's usually like that, right? It's a long, boring, flat line where nobody cares, and then it starts to curve up. And then it takes it, because you're learning what's happening, you're learning what's going on. This works, this doesn't work, that happens, and you stay at it and you're consistent at it, and it starts to go. So I'm super excited with the growth of the community. Really, the last year of my life has just been life-changing. Really, since I started doing YouTube, that seems to be the platform that's connected most with people. But before that, it was blogging. Before that, it was, emails and all kinds of stuff. I've been systematically trying every single thing. And the growth has just been insane this last year.
Yeah, I've certainly watched a few of your videos. They're very well put together. How about the games that you mentioned in 2017? You've been involved in quite a few. What's happening? So glad to hear you got your hand in the development still.
Yeah, no, totally. I like to promote on my channel is focused on finishing and marketing and motivation, and basically it's all the things that I struggle with in game development. And what I found out when I started my channel was none of those were technical. None of them. Everybody has all the tutorials on Unity. They have how to make a platformer. They have this stuff and that stuff. And that was never stuff I struggled with. It was all the non-technical stuff. It was the motivation. It was, how do I stop starting new projects and finish them? How do I actually get my game out there and get people to buy it? How do I do all this other stuff? And my channel, the reason why I started making so many different games last year was mainly because I had this concept that I wanted to share called quantity over quality, and that you actually build quality by making a series, a bunch of different stuff. You just build stuff, but you got to finish it. Finishing was my big problem. And it took me 10 years to finish my first game, 10 years. And I wasn't working on it for 10 whole years, but life got in the way, things happened. And when I found that out, I was like, what? 10 years? What kind of person am I that I can't finish in one game in 10 years? So I sat down, got a couple people together. I said, we're going to treat this like a game jam. 2 weeks, boom, we're going to finish our first game. And we did that. And when I started the YouTube channel, I wanted to take that to a whole new level, because I really wanted to show people that finishing is not only possible, but it's you can put less stress on it than you usually do. Most people, they obsess over it. They want to be perfect. They want this to happen. And like, no game's out there perfect, right? There's one thing that I've learned going to GDC and all these conferences. Every single developer I've talked to from every game that I admire, they're always like, oh yeah, but I wish we would have had that one feature in, wish we would have done that one thing, you know? So the majority of those games actually came from a thing that I called Finish Friday. And it's basically where I'd get live on stream every Friday. I'd go into my folder of prototypes and I would finish a game from one of my half-done prototypes completely live on stream. And the tagline was completed or deleted. If I didn't finish it live on stream and click publish, it would get deleted off my hard drive. So we did that for like 8 weeks, and we finished 8 different games doing that. And then we did a series of, you know, game jams and stuff like that. And it was a ton of fun. But I wanted to promote the idea that finishing should be something you should be the goal, you know, getting there and actually finishing and stuff and publishing.
Yeah, I mean, that's a particular difficulty for an indie that's making a game, you know, in their spare time.
Totally.
You know, most often I was fortunate or unfortunate enough to have the big boys standing over me, you know, waving a milestone payment and waving a release schedule and a contract at me, which does, you know, and unfortunately that happened to me as a young man. So, you know, we were forced by the big boys to learn how to deliver to a time frame and a budget.
Back in the day too, like when you finished the game and it got pressed to disc, that was the game. You know, it's over. Like now with digital distribution, that's not true anymore. Like there are games that I've been playing, like Clash of Clans or Triple Town or any games like this. I've seen mobile games, especially because the platform is so easy to use, like they are drastically different than they were 3 years ago. Like they just get updated and iterated on. And my message to that person was the person working on their first game mostly, because that's usually the game that takes them the longest. They're figuring out all the stuff. And my whole thing was like, just finish the game. You can change it. You can iterate it. You can save the features for the sequel. You can do all this stuff. Just kind of that whole like lean startup methodology, but just like apply it to games, you know, quicker and then iterate faster.
Yeah, and it is extraordinary this where we are at the moment, because we have this real-time relationship with the audience and with the customer. So we can make these changes on the fly. So you can, you know, there with Prison Architect, for example, you know, they were putting it out there before it was finished, you know, to get it paid for by the community, and also to get it tested by the community. So I mean, I mean, it's awesome, and they had such a great success, as we all know. But that kind of brings us nicely to the marketing side of things, because we can reach these people ourselves. We don't have the inventory risk anymore of pressing those discs. You know, you might spend $500,000 just on pressing the discs and then distributing them. Now we can reach a lot of people within a few minutes. What are the first steps that an indie can take with, or what's the most success you've had with a marketing idea and plan for a game?
Well, actually, a couple of days ago, so I'm working on a game called Philophobia, and it's about the fear of love. And it was a game that was inspired by a breakup, and the whole game takes place in hell, but in the hell, all of the enemies are made out of hearts. They're all completely made out of hearts. So every enemy, like, and there's big snakes, there's all kinds of crazy stuff, but it's all made out of hearts. And the game was supposed to launch on Valentine's Day, because, you know, that's a marketing type of tactic. You know, everybody's talking about love and hearts and everything, and my game is relevant to that. If I can connect those two, I know it's going to resonate. The game got delayed, unfortunately, because it wasn't done. And I posted something and this is something that I just posted on Reddit. Super simple. It took me an hour to put together an animated GIF of the game. And it took me another hour to come up with a quick headline about my story. And it was like, I went through a rough breakup, inspired a game where love is literal hell. Put those things together, 2 hours, push it on Reddit. I get 150,000 people looking at my game. I get thousands of people signing up on my email list, thousands of people coming to my website, thousands of people, you know, interacting and talking. And this is not difficult to do. It's terrifying, because people are going to look at your game, they're going to see your game, they're going to tell you exactly what they think because they're not connecting you in any way. It can be deeply personal, right? Like a rough breakup is not necessarily something I want to share all the time. It's a personal story, but it's not technically hard. It's not difficult. You have to understand that people resonate with stories, and if you can share the stories that they care about, they share them among themselves. And just, not trying to, I think we hear the advice like fake it till you make it a lot, and I feel like that doesn't apply in some areas, especially with like indie games and marketing, because the first instinct for a lot of people is to try and pretend like they're a big company, or try and pretend like they've had success or whatever it was. And I know a lot of my success has just been from saying, like, even with YouTube, like a lot of it came from, hey guys, I did this horrible thing that worked out horribly. Here's why you shouldn't do it, and hey guys, I messed up over here. This is something I learned. And just that like honesty and that open like storytelling of like, here's what happened, here's what I did, and then this is the results. I feel like worked better. And because I've shared the story of I'm just a dude in a room making video games by myself, I feel like it has resonated better. And I think it's worked out to my advantage. So as far as like marketing goes, I would say that's probably been one of the things I've done that I've had the most success with, is just being open and honest about who I am and sharing personal stories about my stuff.
Do you think, I mean, 150,000 people looking at it is quite an extraordinary thing to happen. Is that built up over the time through the creation of your community? Is that because people know who you are?
Number specifically was only the Reddit post. That was completely separate from my community. Uh, so I have a community of game developers, and as a creator of games, and they know this, I tell them this all the time. I was like, you guys are just telling me my game is good because you like my content, right? So I have like this, maybe it's insecurity or whatever it is, but it's like, I'm hypersensitive about that because I don't want to make a bad game, So if people are telling my game is good and it's not good, like, why? Stop it. So I don't like to promote like my game stuff to my game developer community, because I don't, sometimes I get good feedback, but I just feel like most of the time it's that. But that being said, having a base community to share something like a Reddit post with, to get initial traction, to get viewed by initial people, to start that whole domino, is very, very powerful. And I did do that actually I did that in my testers groups, because I have a group of testers for the games.
Right, because 150,000 is a good starting community. Is that particular to Reddit that you get that sort of viral interest?
Well, that number was just with that one post. That was a specific number. 150,000 people saw that one GIF. That was in R Gaming, in the subreddit R Gaming, and the exposure is even way more than that too, because Games Radar and a couple other people covered the game. I had people email me and ask me for that, and I didn't have a press kit. I didn't have anything, so this was a mistake I made. Like, I should have been set up for that, but I wasn't. But yeah, that's just that, and that's on the low end too, because the that specific post, actually the prime time of that post was in the middle of the night, because I posted it at 4 p.m. when I should have posted it earlier. So 12 hours later, when it was on the front page of Reddit, it was 4 a.m. and like most of the United States anyway was asleep. So I've seen posts from people that have gotten millions of views just from that, like one post on Reddit. And it has to do with timing and story. It's not just game. People think their game is going to make or break their post, but it's the timing and the story are just as relevant.
Thank you. That's very interesting. Where do you start? I mean, you must sit down and sort of make a marketing plan, and the advice that you give to indies, is that the first thing you do? And what does a plan consist of these days?
Okay, so I would say for a marketing plan, I would say ground zero, step one. This is something I didn't do. This is something you should not follow on my footsteps. But it's to create a home base, like some kind of baseline of where your game is. So I do this thing called Feedback Friday, where I give feedback on people's games and live on stream and stuff. And what the vast majority of people send me is they send me a single build. They'll send me a link, or they'll send me a download link, or they'll send me something like that. And that's all they have. They just have a download link, or sometimes it's an itch.io page, but it doesn't have any content on it or anything like that. And granted, I'm giving them feedback, so all I need to do is play the game. But if I was a gamer, I know nothing about what this file is. I know nothing about it. There's no screenshots, there's no animation, there's no footage, there's no nothing. So I think step one is getting a place on the internet that shows off your game beautifully. And a lot of people will use their Steam page or their Google Play or their App Store page as this page, which is fine. But another thing that they happen to do a lot is they work 2 years on the game and then they spend 20 minutes on the page. You know, they'll rush in like, oh, thank God the game's done. Just throw up the screenshots and just do the stuff. But that page needs to be taken very, very seriously. It's like the cover of a book, you know, like it's going to make or break whether someone picks it up or not. And like specifically on Steam, like that little thumbnail image is going to determine whether or not they even click on your game. Your icon in the App Store is going to determine whether or not they even look at it. So that stuff, all of that needs to be created. And you need to go a step further than that. You need to test it. Don't just create it and say, okay, now it's done. Ask people what their opinions are. Make 5 different versions of the icon. You know, test out different things. And coming from marketing, testing is a big part of our whole process. We constantly iterate and test. And if we have a good landing page, we'll make a duplicate version of the landing page with one difference, and we'll see which one works better. And then we'll use the winning one, and we'll do that again over and over and over again to iterate the best possible outcome. So I think step one is to get your landing page. If it's going to be a store page or something like that, set all that up. I prefer actual websites and landing pages because you have more control over them. And I have a ton of resources on the Game Dev Underground YouTube channel about how to set up a landing page, what you should look like, what best landing pages look like, all that stuff. But once you've got a landing page, there's a lot of other things below the surface that you can set up. So I would say step 2 is to set up the integrations. And what I mean by integrations is email list signups, Facebook ad pixels. And I'll go into more detail on all this stuff just because most people are probably not interested, or they're probably interested, but they probably have no idea this stuff exists. So for one, let's take my Reddit post as an example. 150,000 people saw it, 38,000 people upvoted it, 10,000 people clicked, or 15,000 people clicked to my website, 2,000 people sign up to my email list, right? So it's like a funnel. It starts big and it gets smaller as you go down the line. If I didn't have that email list, I would never be able to contact any of those people ever again. So it doesn't matter all the work that I put into all the marketing. People saw my game, but they got busy lives. They got families. They have kids. They have, you know, they're going to play League of Legends or whatever they're going to do. You know, they forgot about my game. There's no way.
It's Fortnite at the moment.
Fortnite, yeah, Fortnite's the big one. Yeah, it used to be Destiny. Destiny was my favorite, but Destiny 2's gotten some. Yeah, Fortnite's taken over for sure. And they take over, right? So the lives of all these people are just not taken into account. So the landing page is great, but that's only for the first visit. You got to have some kind of connection to these people to remind them or bring them back or share with them launch day, right? Or share discounts or share DLCs or whatever, or your next game, right? So the email list, but also another thing that I did on my landing page, if you go into Facebook ads, you can create what's called a pixel that will tag everybody that visits your website. And if they're logged into their Facebook account, Facebook can remember them. And then you can send ads directly to all the people that have visited your website. So every single person that visited my website got tagged by Facebook automatically. So now, not only can I send out emails to all the people that submitted their emails, but if I launch a Kickstarter or I launch the game or anything like that, I can send out ads only to the people that have already seen my game before. So, and the way that this works, exposure works too, just so people understand, is that most people, they try and get their game everywhere, but you don't have to get everywhere. because most of your target audience only goes to 5 or 10 websites. So if you can get on those 5 or 10 websites, they think you're everywhere. Does that make sense? And like if you get on Facebook, so if a gamer, you know, maybe they go to Kotaku, maybe they go to Facebook, maybe they go to Twitter, maybe they go to, you know, a series of different websites. And if you can get in front of them on, you know, 3 out of 5 of their favorite websites, they think your game's everywhere. And if you can get their contact info, that should be the ultimate goal. Then you can follow up with them and say, hey, game's out for launch, you know, go buy it. So step 1 is definitely get the baseline. Step 2 is to actually get their contact info for the follow-up. And from there, I think it's all about traffic.
Before we move on to traffic, you know, just like, how do developers, I'm pretty sure that they must underestimate this work. You know, you were talking about they just throw up a web page.
Yeah.
But really, they need a whole understanding of how the internet works and where people congregate, and these technical nuances like the pixel. Is that right?
Yeah. So I would say that a lot of those details are probably less important, and maybe even they're a little bit advanced, because something like advertising is not good for beginners, because you'll spend a bunch of money, you'll send a bunch of people, and there'll be no results. So I would say the most important thing is to really spend time on your page. You know, spend a good, like, I'm talking days or weeks on your page. Work on the screenshots, like constantly ask people, hey, do you like screenshot A or screenshot B? And if a bunch of people say A, okay, that one keeps. You know, you keep the screenshot A. Then you say, hey, do you like screenshot A or screenshot C? And constantly like iterate through that stuff. Same thing with the icon, same thing with the thumbnail. And the trailer is really important too. Video trailers are 100% like super one of the most important things. And I would go as far as to create multiple trailers and see which one people like more, and try that stuff. That's all stuff that you can do, you know, generally. I mean, trailer, you know, requires video editing, screenshots require photo editing and all that stuff. But that stuff's the pretty basic stuff to understand.
Yeah, they're very often skills that a developer will have in house anyway, if they're
Pretty
doing
much.
cutscenes and, you know, always making pretty art interfaces and stuff.
Yeah. The basic setting up your whole, like, basically brand online, or your website, or the game's website, or whatever it is. I think that stuff's pretty simple. The follow-up, like as far as email lists, there are a lot of tools online that make it really simple too. So there's tools like Aweber, Constant Contact, Drip. There's a bunch of different companies, and you can log in. It's like $29 a month, something like that. And they'll give you code that you could just place on your website, and then it'll say, enter your name and email. And and especially like if you use something like WordPress too, WordPress has a lot of templates that integrates that stuff. They have a lot of plugins and stuff. So it's pretty simple to set up. The ad stuff is maybe a little bit advanced, and maybe probably honestly that could be a whole talk on its own. So maybe that's probably something we should stray away from.
Thank you, Tim. Moving on to traffic, would you say that would be the next step in the marketing plan, or the next area of focus?
I would.
And
So
it can be expensive to generate traffic, can't it?
so yes and no. I'd say I would break down traffic into 2 different categories. I would say paid traffic and free traffic. Most people start with the traffic. You should absolutely not start with the traffic, because you're going to waste all of your time and effort if you don't have those first 2 things set up. If you don't have the landing page and the home base, and you don't have some way to contact them afterwards. Traffic itself is probably, it's a little difficult. I know as an introvert, it's the scariest. It's, you have to put your stuff out there. You have to like be willing to let people who have never seen it before. You have to be, you know, open to those mean, nasty YouTube comments or Twitter comments or whatever. You have to be prepared for all that stuff. So it's the least fun, I think. But once you have your whole system set up, I think it is the most important, because that's the only thing that you continue to do like over time. Once you've got your landing page and you've got your email list or something, Traffic is the thing you continually do. So as far as paid traffic goes, the way that I look at paid traffic is that you have to set up a money-making machine, and it doesn't make sense in the beginning unless you're testing. So real quick, to just kind of briefly explain that, is if you're paying $1 per click per ad and you send 100 people to your website, that's going to cost you $100. If 10 of those people buy your game and it's $10, you made $100 back, right? Let's say 11 people bought your game and you made $110. In that case, you have a money-making machine, and then you can put another 100 in and you can make another 110, and you can keep doing that over and over again.
How reliable is that? Is that like a fantasy and a holy grail, or is that a serious endeavor that can be achieved?
I was paid to do it for many, many years. It's called creating a sales funnel, and you create this money-making machine, but it is very difficult to do, which is why I think it comes in after free traffic, because when you're generating free traffic, let's say you're going to Twitter, you're going to Facebook, you're going to these different places, and you're posting stuff. You're going to see that some things work better than others. Some stuff people click on, some stuff people don't. Some stuff people like, some stuff people don't. When you say certain keywords or phrases to explain your game, people share it. When you say other keywords, they don't. And so you want to understand all this stuff that's working, because then when you go to paid traffic, you can use those keywords, those images, those things that really make people interact. And it's not a cheap endeavor to get a paid system up and running, because you have to spend a lot of money testing. And going in to expect to just throw a bunch of money and make a bunch of money, it's not going to work out, because you have to continually improve your click-through rates on your ads. You have to continually improve the conversion rate on your landing page, like how many people see the page and how many people actually convert. And then on the inside, you like past the email sign up, you actually have to sell them something, right? So you have to be good at selling your game. Your game has to sell itself. Your game has to really like stand out to a specific audience. And that whole process can be very expensive, especially if you don't know what you're doing. So for new indies, I would completely stay away from advertising 100%. I think advertising works really, really well once you've figured out all the things that already sell your game, in which case you're doing well anyway. Then it would make sense to move some of the money that you're making with the free stuff over to the paid stuff and just scale. So advertising, I think, is better for scaling. Free traffic is better for like building and kind of creating stuff.
Thank you. Are those scaling resources also available on your site and on your channel?
Yeah, so I have a bunch of stuff on how ads work and all this stuff, and I actually have an in-depth talk on YouTube about how that whole ad system works, about how the whole thing works. And I've given talks, I'm sure it's somewhere on the internet. I've given talks on that subject before, so there's plenty of resources online.
Thank you. We're looking at certainly a few hours split testing, not just your advertising, but also split testing your content, trying out the different screenshots, trying out the different trailers. Then
I would say days or weeks. I wouldn't say hours. Lots of time.
Yeah, and how much time then would you spend posting? Looking for places to post for free advertising.
So when it comes to posting like that, you're going to need this data to figure out whether you're on the right track. Like if you want to test your landing page, if you want to change your headline, or you want to change your images, you want to see how it works, every time you change something, you're going to need a bunch of people to come to your website, and you're going to have to look at the data and see, hey, did this work better or did this work worse? And just real quick, because I know some people are wondering like, hey, how do I even get that data? You can use something like Google Analytics, or a lot of the email signups like Aweber and all that. They give you stats for their forms. When you embed their forms into your webpage, they'll tell you the conversion rate. So they'll say, out of every 100 people that saw this, 10 people signed up, and so you got a 10% conversion rate. And so I would spend a lot of time focusing on traffic, but I would spend it in cycles. So I wouldn't just say I go into traffic mode, boom, and just keep doing traffic. I would say, okay, I've set up my landing page, I've set up my email list. I'm going to go try and get 200 or 500 people to my website. So I would go to a bunch of different social media channels, forums, different places, try and get that traffic there. see how it works, see what worked, see what didn't, and then go to another cycle and then try that, make a bunch of changes on the landing page, change some stuff there, then go out and try and get it again to come back and iterate and test from there. You want to know specifically what, like how complicated it is, or where would I go? Or
one of the things that about this summit is we want to go a little bit deeper and try to get to the real nuts and bolts and not just focus on what's already available free for on YouTube. So real world experience is really important to us. So if you can drill down a little bit, I'd really appreciate that.
So I would say, as far as traffic goes, this is a little controversial, but from my personal experience, Facebook pages are not working at all right now. So if you're creating a Facebook page for your game, personally, I think it's a mistake, because I've set up a ton of different pages. I had pages for Game Dev Underground and all that stuff. And back in 2013, 14, oh my God, it was amazing. You could get so many people to like your page. Every post that you put out would get shared to all those people. All those people would like and comment on it. That would get shared to all their friends. And then they would do it. And it was insane. It was great. Facebook has since changed their algorithm. And if you don't advertise with them, they almost completely remove your content from the feed. And if you do advertise with them, they actually remove your content from the feed even more, because they want you to keep advertising with them. So it's not as effective as it used to be. And Facebook pages itself, when you actually create a page that you like, just doesn't seem to work anymore. And Facebook has actually made announcements that said they're going to remove brands and businesses and stuff from the newsfeed even more. So I don't have any faith in that at all. That being said, Facebook groups personally have worked very, very well for me. So if you've used Facebook for a while, you may or may not know what groups are, but basically they're kind of like forums, but in Facebook style with timelines. And you can, if you go up to the search bar on Facebook, you can actually search different types of genres. And what most people do when they find out about groups is they go into indie game developers group, and then they try and promote their game there. But game developers are not your target audience. They could be a segment of your audience, but they're not your target. So what you want to do, this worked really well for me, is going to genre-specific Facebook groups. So if you're making an RPG, look up RPG in the Facebook search and kind of go through and see which ones match the type of game that you're in, right? And some of them have really great, communities there, and hundreds of thousands of people sometimes. And if you get a post at the top of there, you're talking hundreds of thousands of views for your game. And going back to like the honesty and sharing and being honest, don't come in there like a company saying, this is our latest title that, blah, blah, blah. But just, hey guys, I've been working for 2 years on this game, and I would love feedback from like RPG fans, or what do you guys think of this? And
yeah, it's the best way to do it. You might get a testing community for your game, and also if you're spending money on something that really isn't working, they'll tell you to stop, right?
Exactly. They'll be completely honest with you. And not only that, but I got to say too, just for the fellow introverts out there that are scared to do this kind of stuff, because I know how terrifying it is, believe me, people are generally super supportive. And if you're honest like that, the chances of you getting the just mean trolls are very low. But you got to be honest. If you come in there pretending like you're a big company, or you try and like stealth post about it, or you're trying to like do something sneaky, people will call you out, and you'll get into some stuff. And if you just be open and honest and say, hey guys, I made this game, I want to share it with you guys, see what you think, and just, be a part of the community. Don't just treat them like they're numbers to come at you. Actually comment on other posts, like other people's posts, interact with people in the group, get people to see your name. The more often you do that in a group, the more likely it is that they'll like your stuff, they'll share your stuff. And then that way, when you actually post, you invested in the community, people they know your name, they understand, they comment, they like, they do all that stuff, they share, and then your post goes good. And on Facebook, the more engagement that a post gets, the higher it actually goes in the group, and the more Facebook pushes it out to the algorithm. So it works in your favor extremely. And your post can stay live for 2-3 days sometimes, depending on the engagement, and it can stay right at the top of the group with hundreds of thousands of people. So that's super effective as far as Facebook goes.
You found those groups really effective. Are there other channels that you found as effective, or what would be the next level down?
it's not really in order because I don't think Facebook's the most effective. But I would say the next one that I also think is effective is Reddit. Uh, some people are super Reddit fans and some people don't even know what Reddit is. But Reddit is basically a combination of forums. And it's a site where anybody can set up what's called a subreddit. And then in that subreddit, it's basically like a message board or a forum for that topic. So Reddit overall is a big global community, but inside Reddit, there's lots of different sub-communities. And the way that it's really effective in Reddit to market your game is to find these little sub communities that are hyper focused on your genre of game. There's RPG ones, there's RTS ones, there's FPS ones, all this stuff. And the biggest one of the biggest ones by far is our gaming, which I was talking about. My game in Phylophobia got to the top of gaming because that's by far the biggest one. So that's the general gaming one. These are all gamers. These are all people hardcore about games. And that's the ultimate goal. So the best way to be on Reddit is you will get attacked and destroyed if you are not honest. The internet is an army. Okay. I just want to say this because if you try and lie or you try and pretend you're somebody that you're not, the internet will find out. They will go through your post history. They will find your websites. They'll look you up on internet. They'll find your real name. It's just insane. You're dealing with hundreds of thousands of people on the internet. And if you try and lie to them, they will find out. So being open and honest, I think, is super important. Being vulnerable, and I know it sounds weird because it's not like a motivation talk or anything like that, but being vulnerable and just being real with people, I think is a really good idea on Reddit. Like when I posted my game, Phylophobia, it was a game that came from a breakup. It was a really rough time, and it was a game about love being hell, right? And I shared my story. I shared the things that happened, and it resonated with people. And it especially resonated because it was Valentine's Day, and there's lots of people that have been through the same thing. And because of that, it got exposure for my game. And now I have a lot of people that have been through this type of thing that are going to resonate even deeper with my game because they know the story behind it. So looking for those different subreddits that I think are relevant to your game, but also, again, like the Facebook groups, communicating with them, interacting with them, not just treating them like numbers to expose your game, actually being part of the community, getting them to see your name, commenting other people's stuff, upvoting people's stuff, encouraging people, doing all that stuff. Because Reddit actually has a rule where you have to maintain a certain percentage of like exposing other people's content, not just your own. It's like a self-promotion rule. And if moderators see that all you're doing is promoting your own stuff, your stuff's going to get deleted. You won't get banned or anything because it's not like an official rule, but you will definitely get removed from different forums and subreddits, and people because people don't want someone that's just going to spam a bunch of stuff. And it's just being human, I think, is important for Reddit.
Do you feel like you really to ideally market a game, is it something you can do as a solo developer, or do you need a team behind you?
I think you can do it as a solo. As a matter of fact, having run a marketing company and having marketed products and stuff, I think it is actually easier to market as a solo. And I know it sounds crazy, but my approach, because one of the reasons, I don't really talk about this publicly, but I had a marketing company. One of the reasons why I wanted to sell it and get out of that company was because I was being contacted by like large companies, supplement companies, different types of people that had products to sell. And my job would be to figure out how to sell them. But I didn't necessarily believe in the product. So sometimes I would be in the moral situation of, I don't believe this product can help people, but I have to convince people to buy it. And that felt really dirty for me. It felt really bad. So my whole approach when I sold the company and started, game development again and really tried to push my games out there was, if that's what marketing is, I don't want to do marketing. That's not, that can't be what it is. So I took the approach of like the complete honesty, trying to share everything I learned, trying to help people, trying to interact, and
Just sharing your good stuff and then seeing if people like it.
totally, but also being a cool person, right? Like, and I will say like the level of, I don't want to say engagement, like the loyalty of like the fans is so much higher than any of these companies ever had. You know, like I could sell a supplement to somebody, but then they'd be upset, and or maybe they may even like the product, right? But a supplement to them doesn't mean anything. They walk in GNC, they see a bunch of supplements, they'll just buy another one. You know, it's whatever. But like when I share the game that like was inspired by a breakup, and it's love is hell, and it's like made out of hearts, and they went through a breakup too, and they resonate with me, and they watch my videos every day or something like that, like it creates a different kind of connection. Like it's way stronger than anything that I've ever witnessed in my marketing company. And that's why like community building is so important. That's what that is. It's really hitting that nail on the head and really diving deep, and not just saying these people are here to buy my stuff, saying, no, I'm a part of this circle that these people are in, and I'm going to connect with them just as much as they connect with me. And I'm going to share with them just like they're sharing with me. And I think that's going to be a common theme in like all the different social media channels, because a lot of people like to take the social out of social media and just use it as media, and they forget to be social. And yes, it's easy to do as an introvert, man. Like talking to people is not my favorite thing to do.
Do you think that your particular community is so loyal because you are an introvert and you appeal to other introverts?
I think that's part of it. I also think that open and honest with it. Like there is a lot of people that I know. There's a mentor of mine who was the head of sales for like huge companies. He's built sales forces. He's made millions of dollars. He's done all kinds of stuff. He's the one that taught me like a lot of marketing, a lot of sales stuff. And we used to hang out. He used to tell me, I don't want to hang out with people. I'm an introvert. And I'm like, what? You're the most social person I know. What are you talking about? Like you're the person that I wanted your personality because it was so like gravitating. He's like, yeah, I know how to do that. But you know, at the end of the day, I just want to be alone. I want to just chill out. And so I think a lot of people aren't open about it. They just don't share it. And so people have their own little things in their head. Well, oh, that it's easy for that guy because that guy is an extrovert. That guy knows this. That guy is you know. And what we don't realize is like a lot of people are like us. And the fact that I've been open and honest, I think, has kind of helped share that, because like when people hear I used to run a marketing company, introvert is not the first thing that comes to their mind, you know, at all. So I think those things kind of help, and the being open and being honest, I think, is really important in the community building.
Yeah, thank you. I mean, it's such an interesting subject, community building, because it's really important not to think of the community as a commodity. You know, these are actual human beings and you're joining in with them. So you've talked about being open and honest with the community. What else do you do and how often do you communicate with them?
So for my game development community, which is Game Dev Underground, that's like my core focus. Like I'm making games constantly. I love making games, but I really have a passion for like helping. I always felt like in a different life I'd be a teacher, or you know, some kind of person like that. I like to teach. I like to share stuff, and so I post a video every single day at 9 a.m. on YouTube, every single day, and I've been doing that for almost 10 months now. So that's very frequent. I send out an email every single week. I do a live stream every single week. I'm constantly in our Discord chat. I'm around for anybody that has any issues. Like people message me all the time, hey Tim, I have this problem. You know, and for them, like the way they word it too, like sometimes they think I'm some kind of celebrity, or, you know, they see me on YouTube, they see me in these different places. And so they send me messages like they're scared of communicating with people. I'm like, no, dude, send me your site, send me your link. Let me check it out. Let me test it out. And like, I do a thing called Feedback Friday, where every Friday I go and I give everyone that wants feedback on their game. I play it live on stream for hundreds of people, and I give them feedback. And I tell them what I think. And so it's not so much what I say that communicates that honesty and that trust and that like intention. It's like it's what I do. Like if I'm pulling a scam on people, I am trying really hard to pull this off, right? Like I'm going way beyond what anyone else has ever done, to post daily videos, to send weekly emails, to do live streams, to be in disc. Like it's my entire, like it's a big chunk of my time. And I think a lot of people, it's not always fun being in the spotlight like that. And I know, and I'm starting to get, to be honest, we're growing to the point where it's kind of getting crazy. Like I'm speaking at a place in a week actually, and there was a thing about diversity on the speakers, because there was just a bunch of white males listed as the speakers, and I got caught in that controversy because I'm part of the speakers, I'm part of this whole thing, and it was not something like, these aren't things that I considered before, right? Like I never thought like, okay, that's gonna happen, and I'm gonna get a bunch of flag from just speaking it somewhere and trying to share stuff, but that stuff happens, and now people are looking to me for my thoughts on the subject, and I have to share, okay, this is what I think, this is what my thoughts on this, and it's not always easy, but I can tell you, some of the friends I've made, some of the people that I met, the community has really changed my life in so many different ways. And anybody that's thinking about getting their game out there, getting their art out there, not just games, it works for music, it works for authors, it works for artists, getting their stuff out there, I think a community is the best way to do it, not just to promote your stuff, but to build something bigger than yourself that can help inspire a whole group of people, and really change their lives in certain ways, right? Like there's so many things that you learn that you can share with other people, and they will gladly love to hear that stuff.
Really, I wish you every success in handling that sort of level of exposure, because from what I've seen, you're very good at producing those videos and making them work. So I really, if anybody can handle it, you can, by the looks of it.
It doesn't start that way too. I should point that out. When I started YouTube, I started weekly, and the weekly videos were so hard to put out every week. And when I did daily, I was not planning on doing daily videos for that long. I was like, okay, I'm gonna try this for 30 days, right? And it was so hard. I had to film, because it would give me anxiety, because I had to come up with topics and all that stuff. I had to film like 5 or 6 at a time. So I would like spend a day filming the videos for the whole week, and then I would push them out, and then I would just be like, oh, I gotta film more. And then 30 days into it, I was like, all right, I did it for 30 days. Maybe I could do it for 90. And so I tried for 90, and it was hard and it was rough, and I had the same problems, but I got better at it, right? I learned the things that were taking a long time. One of the things that I did is, in the beginning, I was editing on my videos. I was doing a little intro. I was doing a intro animation, and then I was having the whole video. I took that out, not because I don't think that was better. That was a better video. But if I don't edit the videos, it saves me 60% of the time making the videos. So I could push them out, and I get the same message, maybe in a little bit less quality, but it's more often, right? It reaches more people. So it's hard to start, and it's always going to be hard to start. And it's going to be one of the hardest things that you do, is actually getting in this rhythm. But the more you do it, the better at it you get. And I think, like, had this whole community thing, the exposure, the emails, the messages, the YouTube videos, if all this had just dumped on me a year ago, I wouldn't have been able to handle it. It's just been like, whoa, it's way too much. I just can't. But if you do one thing at a time, and you just focus on that one thing, and then build on top of it, okay, now I'm good at this one thing, I could do thing number 2, and then do both of those. Now I could do thing number 3 and do all 3 of those, and just slowly kind of build up the tolerance to this stuff. I think it works really well.
Yeah, well, thank you. You maintain such a regular dialogue with your community. What do they share back with you? What sort of problems do you come up against with the community, particularly if you've released a game? Is it like, okay, you've got bugs, or you've got, feedback? What else do they come up with?
One of the most important things, as far as games go, is, I think, finding that recurring narrative, finding the things that come up often from multiple different people in multiple different locations over and over again. Those are the things that I feel like are important. And as far as when you post a video, and you post multiple videos over a week or a month or whatever it is, people will see, because I also post videos about my game, and I share the stuff. I do live streams every once in a while where I'm working on the game, and there are certain things that people bring up a lot. And so sometimes those are things that are bad and need changing. Sometimes those are things that are good and need more showcasing. So for example, with my game Phylophobia, I have this mechanic where it's a platformer. So you're looking at the screen, and there's a character moving side to side. but I have this shadow mechanic where you can only see on the screen what that character has line of sight access to. And interestingly enough, when this character jumps around and he moves the platform and these shadows move with him that block his what's out of line of sight, they also tend to look like 3D objects. They look like they're some sort of 3D, even though it's a 2D game. And that comes up all the time. People tell me, hey, this looks 3D. This looks awesome. So, for example, when I posted on Reddit, one of the things that I did was I took extra care to showcase when those platforms look 3D-ish, because it looks cool, and people, that's always the number one thing they comment on it. And coincidentally, that GIF also got me to the top of Reddit, because that was the coolest thing people commented on about my game. And so just listening over time to the things that they say can help. It also helps on the other end of finding things that are bad. One of the things I've realized about players is they usually suck at telling you what you should do, but they're really good at finding things that you should fix or change.
Yeah.
So
I had an art director that used to say, I don't know what I want, but I'll know when I see it.
yeah, exactly. And actually, I think Destiny 2 has this problem. If anybody has been around any of the Destiny community, uh, there are so many people that are just unhappy with the game because the game's just not as fun as Destiny 1. But all the suggestions they're giving are crazy. It's just insane. So, for example, every time someone brings up a problem, I note the problem. I don't note their solution. Sometimes I'll listen, because I want to be open and accepting. I don't want to just get stuck in my head. But most of the time, the problems will come up over and over again. And for example, using the same shadow mechanic with Phylophobia, early on, one of my design philosophies was the game was going to be super hard precision platforming like Super Meat Boy. But this came up multiple times. People were saying that because of the way the shadows move, sometimes you can't see platforms with precision that it requires. So the mechanic was kind of fighting my core design philosophy at the time. And that's something I didn't even notice because I played the game 1,000 times and I was just like, oh, it's a fun game. It's whatever. And I knew how all the levels looked and worked anyway because I built them. So for someone that's playing it the first time, they couldn't see all the rest of the level because of the shadows. And they were just like, this doesn't make sense. It's precision platforming. So that was one of the considerations I took into the game. So from both angles, I think having that kind of constant dialogue really, really helps. It helps work out kinks, and it also helps you find the stuff that's most, showable or presentable.
I can easily see why that would make the top of Reddit because it's genuine relationship. You're genuinely sharing, problems and solutions that are sincere.
I think that's important too, the sincerity. And people get it. Like, you can't spend this much time on something, and just you can't add this much to a community without having some sort of honesty and openness and sincerity, because it'll get found out. It's too easy for people to Google around and find stuff.
You mentioned Discord, and we haven't touched really on and Twitter. I think you mentioned as well. We haven't touched on Instagram or Pinterest or Snapchat. Are any of these platforms that you use for marketing?
Okay, so I'll go through those couple quickly. Instagram, I think, was fantastic, but since Facebook bought them, it's kind of downhill. I think it used to be it would show every post sequentially. When you looked at a hashtag, you would see every single post sequentially. I know people that were making hundreds of $1,000s and millions of dollars with Instagram, just posting images and just attracting audiences. That is kind of dead. And I know this because I have actual friends that literally had pages with millions of followers where people were paying them thousands of dollars just for single posts. And it's not there anymore. Because of the algorithmic approach that Facebook takes, where they say, oh, you don't need to see everything in sequence. You only should see this one thing that everybody tends to comment on. I think there's still some value there. There's still some audience. The hashtags specifically on Instagram work much better than I think Twitter. And because it's a visual platform, I think it's well suited for games and for animated GIFs and for videos. And Pinterest, I would say the same thing about that. It's well suited because it's a visual platform. I don't have a ton of experience on Pinterest, but I know people that really use it to generate a lot of traffic. If you can just post an image and then post a link, preferably an animated image or something like that. I don't actually know if Pinterest supports any of that, but I know Instagram does. You can post videos and stuff like that, and there are no links really that work really well on. You can't put like stuff like that in a post. So I would make sure if you're posting your game, you have your link in the bio to your game, and just use the correct hashtags. And you can search hashtags online for tools. There are tools that will tell you related hashtags. You can type in genres or whatever, find the best and most used hashtags for your game. Twitter, I think, works really, really well for feedback. I don't think it's the best for marketing your game, but like I mentioned, those tools that can help you find hashtags, I would look into some of those tools. Just type like find the best hashtags in Google or something like that, and you'll find genre specific hashtags like that you can type in, and you can get visibility on Twitter in front of those people. And I think it's worth testing, because I don't have games in all different genres, so I haven't been able to test it in all different genres. But just from what I've seen, if you want to post with the hashtag Screenshot Saturday or Game Dev or Indie Dev Hour, stuff like that, it's really good for getting feedback on your game from other developers. So if you're doing those split tests we talk about, where you have icon A, icon B, posting those hashtags will I think will be really effective getting in front of those people, and you'll get responses and you'll get some feedback that way. Discord is interesting because Discord is newer. It's really kind of not been around for as long as some of the other platforms, but I personally use Discord, and I started using Discord for my community. And I found that it's completely changed the community so much, because before we used to use a forum structure where people would post and then they would wait and then they'd get a response and then so on and so forth. But now it's like instant chat room style, and it's people can get instant feedback. They can get instant, thoughts and ideas. If they're sharing marketing ideas, they can do so. So I also use it for testing. I have a separate Discord server specifically for my Philophobia game, and I use it to push out new builds to testers, and I can tag everyone. I can do stuff like that. So I don't think Discord itself is a marketing tool. I would consider it more under the umbrella of like email lists or something like that, to kind of maintain your audience and kind of keep them engaged. But I think it's really, really effective. And if you can get people that are active Discord users into your Discord chat, it's great because you can tag them when new builds come out. You can show them new posts. You can use them to kickstart posts on something like Reddit or on Facebook, because you can send them links to those posts. They can give a bunch of initial engagement, and then that will bump them up in the algorithm. So you can kind of use them as like an initial boost to kind of push your posts out places. And that's really effective. So I think Discord doesn't work in low volume though. So if you're in the beginning and you don't have a lot of volume and you have like 2 or 3 people or something like that, Discord can actually hurt you, because then it looks like a ghost town. It looks like nobody's interested in your game. And social proof is really powerful. When people see that other people are interested in things, they want to be interested too. And if they go into your Discord for your game and they're really excited about it, and only 2 other people are there, they're going to kind of be like, what is this? So Discord, I think, is something that you probably use middle of the road in marketing. I think it's kind of how you solidify your community and bring it in. But I don't think it's really I think you send traffic to it. I don't think it's a traffic source.
If you wanted our audience to take away one sort of one marketing message, one message about marketing for video games from this, what would you advise them? Do you have any guidelines or advice?
One single thing that I think any developer should remember is, in marketing, it's not a thing you do at launch. It's an iterative process during all of development. So just don't think of marketing as like a thing you go do. Think of marketing as something that is constantly getting better. And if you look at it in those cycles of, I'm going to try this, see how it works. It worked well. I'm going to try this again with some changes. It worked better. Or if it worked worse, go back to the other way, and just look at it in those cyclical type of process. Don't look at it as a thing you do when you're done with the game. I think that is the most critical, because if you're constantly testing And everything that you do, every post you put out on Twitter, every post you put out on Facebook, Instagram, Reddit, all these places, look at it like a test. Pay attention to the likes, pay attention to the retweets, all this stuff. Pay attention to the engagement. And if it works, do something similar in the future. If it doesn't work, don't try it again. Like, just continually iterate and improve. And that can't not work, right? Like, you're gonna get better. And if you just keep doing it, like, you're gonna get better results a year from now than you got today. So if you want an absolute surefire way to get better at marketing, that's how you look at it.
Thank you so much.